Welcome to Reflections Live. I'm your moderator, Brandon. Today we have our host, Bianca, with our two guests, Connor and Corey. How are you guys doing today?
Great.
Wonderful. Really well.
All right. What did you guys do over your weekend? Did you do anything fun?
I fell going upstairs. That's about it.
I volunteered for a race for the cure.
Nice.
Right
So
on.
that's
Super
good.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I helped people move all weekend.
You guys seem like you had
Super fun.
productive weekends. I just fell. It's the only exciting thing.
All weekend.
Up the stairs.
48 hours of falling.
All right. So this is Detox Rehab Presents Reflections Live. And we do the stream every Monday at 12 o'clock. And this is kind of an outlet for anyone to have questions. Our guests and our host here will answer them. So feel free to comment those below. And we also go through topics. And today's first topic is the daily reflection, fixing me, not you. And it goes like this. If somebody hurts us and we are sore, we are in the wrong also. It's from page 90. What a freedom I felt when this passage was pointed out to me. Suddenly I saw that I could do something about my anger. I could fix me instead of trying to fix them. I believe that there are no exceptions to the axiom. When I am angry, my anger is always self-centered. I must keep reminding myself that I am human, that I am doing the best I can, even when that best is sometimes poor. So I ask my higher power to remove my anger and truly set me free.
It's your first time on. Corey, why don't you start us out?
So, for a long time, there were a lot of things that I couldn't understand what this was talking about. People do messed up things all the time, and it's really not my fault. Like, of course I'm going to be angry. And it was explained to me that most of the reason I got angry with these people was whether I realized it or not, I had leveled some expectations on these people. Whether I had told them about them or not, I still had these expectations. And what I was angry about was that they weren't living up to those expectations.
Right.
And really, that's more my problem than theirs. And if I spend all my time trying to get the entire world to behave a certain way because I need that to make me feel good, I'm really just allowing the whole world to dominate the way I feel and behave.
Yeah.
And it creates a lot of completely unsolvable problems for me, because if my problems are everyone else's fault, there's nothing I can do about that. But if I take responsibility for those problems and the way I feel and the way I act, it's much more likely I can deal with that and continue to help other people if they need help dealing with theirs.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I really liked how you put everything. I don't really know how I'm going to live up to that one. You really explained it well. I agree with everything you said, and it's just the expectations of people really gets me. And it's or for me, if I'm getting angry at someone for something, it's something that I see in myself that I want to change in a way. Or it's expectations, and I get expectations with a lot of people. Mostly my dad. I expect him to call me, and I expect him to do this, and I expect him to do that, but I'm the only one who's getting hurt because I know that's never going to happen. And if I just let it be and I don't think about it and I pray about it and meditate on it, if I want this, it's going to happen, whatever's going to happen. I can't sit here and focus on the what ifs, because it's just going to hurt me in the end. And what was it that I really liked in here? I like how it says, when I'm angry, my anger always self-centered. I must keep reminding myself that I am human, that I'm doing the best I can, even when it's sometimes poor. Even when sometimes that best is sometimes poor. There we go. That reminds me of no matter how my day is going or no matter what I'm doing, it's if I'm trying my best, that's the best it can be for that day, and I can learn from what I did and learn from it and make the next day what am I trying to say? Make the next day better than the last. And I really like how they put that in there, because that's kind of how I'm feeling today. I just am out of it and I'm doing my best, and that's all that matters.
So I also like the part about, reminding myself that I'm human, right? And I make mistakes, and I take actions based on emotions, and I get angry, and I think that it's so important because nobody is harder on me than myself,
Right.
right? And I think that's pretty common as far as alcoholics and drug addicts go. Like, nobody can make us feel worse than we make ourselves feel,
Yeah.
you know, because I think that we have to watch ourselves, I mean, really destroy the life that we have, basically.
And people around us.
Right, and this is talking about fixing me and not you. And it's things like expectations, right, that I have to be aware that I cannot make anybody do anything. I can't change the way other people think. I can't just make them do things for me,
Right.
right? And I have to be aware of that so that I don't get into this self-centered anger. So that's the way I see it. And as far as like connecting it to living a sober lifestyle, I have to recognize this because resentment is what destroys us. You know, getting
Right.
so angry at people and things and whatever it is, and that will drive us to drinking or drugging faster than anything else, I think.
How is it that you get over the resentment?
Well, this talks about it a little bit, recognizing it in myself,
Right.
what's happening for me, and trying to address those issues instead of putting the blame on somebody else.
Yeah.
So focusing on myself and my behavior instead of blaming other people for it, right?
Yeah. I think we covered that one pretty good. Would we want to go on to the next?
Absolutely. The next topic we have is called consequences. And it goes like this. Before we got clean, most of our actions were guided by impulse. Today, we are not locked into this type of thinking. That's from page 90 of the basic text. Ever been tempted to do something even when you knew the result would be disastrous? Ever thought about how much it was going to hurt to do what you were tempted to do, then proceeded to do it anyway? It is said that there are consequences to every action. Before we got clean, many of us simply didn't believe this, but now we know exactly what it means. When we act, we know there will be consequences to pay. We can no longer decide to do something in ignorance when we know full well that we won't like the price we'll have to pay. There's a prize and a price. It's okay to act despite the consequences if we're willing to pay the price, but there's always one to pay. Just for today, I will think about the consequences of my actions before I take them.
Connor,
I think it goes perfectly from the last one, right?
why?
Because if I'm acting out of anger, then I'm going to receive those consequences. Most likely not going to be good. So when I got sober and I had to start taking a look at myself and my previous behavior, and I had to start taking care of those things that I did wrong, right? And going back and trying to right the things that I'd done. It really kind of makes you aware of all the awful things that you've done to people and how they've shown up in your life. And there's a transition. Instead of doing all these awful things, getting sober and staying sober helps me to take positive actions which reflect in my life, right? And all these good things start to happen. You know, family talks to me, I can hold a job, right? I can pay my bills, I can do normal things that people do, and I'm not tearing stuff down. I'm not taking negative actions which I receive negative consequences for.
Right.
So-
What was that? Did you agree with him?
Yeah, well, I don't remember where I learned this, and I'm almost positive I heard this from someone else, but ignorance of the consequences of my actions does not excuse me from those consequences.
Right.
And kind of like what Connor was saying, how this ties into like the anger one we were just talking about. If I allow myself to get angry and like act out of that anger, I'm reacting and not responding.
Right.
If that makes sense. And it took a while for me to recognize that. And a lot of it was like, it was not necessarily that I didn't believe those consequences were coming. It was either I didn't really care in the moment, you know, it was more of a like, oh, I'll just deal with that later when it comes. Or it was I had this like weird twisted belief that somehow I would get out of it,
Yeah.
you know? And then I got sober and realized there were a lot of long-term consequences to a lot of short-term decisions I had made. You know, like my family is just ripped apart by decisions I made in a split second.
Right.
And now that I have to go and repair that, it's made me a lot more mindful of, like, there might be long-term effects from my actions that I take today. And like you were saying, when I try to take positive actions, when I try to be helpful to people, when I try to do the next right thing, those long-term consequences are actually like positive effects in my life and sometimes in the lives of people around me.
Yeah.
When they're selfish, self-centered, or like, you know, something I'm afraid of, so I make a decision based on that fear, sometimes something bad happens right away. Sometimes it might take like a while, but something bad will come my way as a result of those actions, whether I see that correlation or not. Like, I've had enough experience over the years of watching that happen and re-examining that process that I know it's coming whether I recognize it or not.
Yeah.
You know?
I really I didn't even realize that it tied into the first one, and I really like how you guys pointed that out. And I will think about the consequences of my actions before I take them. Like, I can do that today. Like, in my addiction, I was kind of, whatever I wanted to do was going to happen because all I thought about myself. I didn't think about other people. I didn't think about the consequences that were going to happen to me. And it was just impulsive, bad thinking, and like I would just do what I had to do in order to get loaded. And today, like, I can actually take a step back and be like, hey, is this something that I want to do? Is this something that I want the consequence for? Or and I can just look at what
It comes
totally
back to
lost my
pausing
train
when
of
you're
thought.
agitated.
Yeah, pause when agitated. Yeah. So I really like this reading and I enjoyed it because I can do this today. I don't have to just go on what I think's right at the time. I can sit back and be like, okay, what am I going to do that's going to make this situation better? So yeah.
True.
Do we have any questions?
We do. Our first question is, I have a few sponsees, and one of them struggled a lot over the weekend. They called me several times saying that they were struggling, but I couldn't find the right thing to say to help. What have your sponsors told you that really helped you in a moment of weakness?
Oh, man. So advice for a sponsor, right, is that you can't make anybody do anything.
Right.
You just can't. And people are going to do what they want to. And I think it's a really good sign that they keep calling, right? Because usually when somebody is at that point where they're going to get loaded, they either are desperate and they're going to take the action, or
They're going to stop calling.
they're going to not talk to you, they're going to get loaded. And it's unfortunate, but it's so important to not blame yourself for that, right? And I mean, you have to learn. I learned it the hard way, right? After sponsoring a few people, I mean, a bunch that don't stay sober, because the chances are low. But I think it's so important just to be there, available and ready for someone when they're ready. As far as something my sponsor said, I mean, what I get most from my sponsor is his life experience and what he went through, right? And I go through similar things that he did after you get sober and you start your life again. And it's just kind of like I try to parallel what he did because, I mean, he's sober.
Right.
He's living a good life. Good things are happening for him. And I just want to follow in those footsteps. I want the same thing.
Yeah.
I want to live a good, happy life. So.
Do you want to read the question again for me, please?
Absolutely. Let's see, where did it go? 1 second. I have a few sponsees, and one of them is struggling a lot over the weekend. They called several times saying that they were struggling, but I couldn't find the right thing to say to help. What have your sponsors told you that really helped you in a moment of weakness?
Okay. All right. So Connor, you hit that head on. You can't do anything to make someone want to change. It's either they want it or it's not going to happen. And my sponsor, she really hasn't said anything. She's just been there and she understood. Like, she understood the feelings I had, and she understood what I was going through, and was just there for me to remind me that I need to do certain things so I can stop feeling this way. Like, I need to go to my 12-step meetings. I need to pray. I need to meditate. I need to work with other people that in the program that I work. And everything's just going to get better, and this feeling that I'm feeling is only going to like last a moment. It's not going to last forever. And would I rather like, one thing that she made me like think of is, would I rather feel this feeling for, you know, however long it's going to last, like 5 minutes, or go back to what I was feeling when I wanted to get clean, when I thought I was hopeless on the streets. My sponsor, she's just always been there for me, and it's not about what she says or what she does, it's just her presence that kind of makes things better for me. And if you can't say something to someone that you can't really, what I just said, you can't say something to someone to make them, and like make them feel better. Like, they just have to really want the help. And as long as you're there for them, and as long as they're calling and you're just there on the phone, like, that's all you can really do. And don't take it personal, as Connor was saying. Like, if something, it does end up happening, like, it's not your fault. You did what you were supposed to do. You were there, you answered the phone, you picked up the phone, and
Can't save everybody.
Right. And it sucks. I also had to learn that the hard way too. But there is hope. I actually ran into one of my old sponsees at a meeting, and she was doing really good, and it put a huge smile on my face. And we all have problems, and we all mess up, and if it has to be a part of your recovery journey, then that's what it has to be.
Yeah, I think you two kind of, like, you both said it, so. But, you know, what my sponsor's always done for me, and this was really important. This was a hard lesson for me to learn too, like sponsoring the guys that I sponsored. It's really important when I'm, for my sponsor working with me or me working with my sponsees, that I meet them where they're at.
Right.
You know, whatever off-the-wall problem they come to me with, like, I don't try to get them to meet me where I'm at, because I'm not in the same headspace that they are.
Right.
And it took a while, but it's really important to, like, not be judgmental about whatever situation is going on. Just like do my best to try and be helpful. And like my sponsor with me, you know, I've come to him with some pretty like crazy issues, like just really off the wall stuff. And you know, a few times he had to like physically regroup before he answered me, you know, just okay, this is what we're doing, you know. And but he always like, all right, you know. And he would tell me, like you were saying, he would tell me his experience out of his own life with whatever that problem was. But he would always, like, he gave me the dignity to experience the consequences myself. Like we were just talking about, you know, it was, well, you should probably do this, or don't. Like, it's your life. And it took me a couple of times to learn that the or don't, like, I'm free to do that, but it's probably not going to work out well, you know. But, yeah, just, you know, like it talks about, like, love and tolerance is our code. Try to meet people where they're at and do your best to be there for them. And what happens, happens. We really have very little control over the situation.
Right.
True.
Next question.
All right, so this next one is called Confidence Has Been Tricky for Me. I've been clean for over 4 years and have made a lot of changes in my life that I never thought possible. Areas like school, relationships. One of the issues I still deal with is a lack of confidence. It comes and goes, and sometimes I feel really driven and motivated, and at other times I feel like I could crawl under a rock. I've always been an anxious person, and it's part of the reason why I used in the first place. I feel like this could be a helpful topic to talk about. Have any of you had success in this area of boosting your own confidence, and what did you do?
Go for it.
I'm not. That's the thing, is I personally don't feel like I'm a very confident person. And the easiest way I got over that was by putting myself in situations that I absolutely did not want to be in. You know, standing up and speaking in front of people, or like agreeing to go and do this. Like I don't have that confidence, but then halfway through when I start doing those things and it turns out like, oh, really isn't that bad, you know? And it's really hard, like, oh, this is what you need to do to be more confident, and really all I did was just kind of like pretended for a little while until I started getting over those fears, whatever weird fears I had that made me think I wasn't good enough.
Right.
I think confidence is like mistaken sometimes. At least I misunderstood it, right? I think that being comfortable with yourself is what people are looking for, right? If I'm okay with myself and who I am, I guess that secure if not confident, and I think that's more important. The thing to look for, I think, to change that is courage, right? To get through those fears. That's what's more important, and you'll end up comfortable in your own skin after. You know, it takes a while. It doesn't just appear out of thin air. Like, you build it up, and I was so anxious and afraid to talk to people and afraid of being judged when I got sober, because I was in a shitty place, right? My life was shitty. I'm at the bottom of my life. Like, how can somebody be confident or comfortable in their own skin like that? So it takes a while of positive action and getting comfortable with yourself and getting through fears, right? And then at that point, I start to grow and be all right with myself and be able to rely on the person that I know I am. And so it takes time. It takes positive action and getting through fear.
Yeah. You both took the words out of my mouth. I have nothing to say. So.
Sweet.
All right, so we'll move to the next question, which is, I'm struggling at 50 years of age, and my best friend that I've known since kindergarten, so 45 years, is still actively using. I don't want to cut off contact with this friend, but at the same time, I'm always feeling tempted when around them. Any thoughts or advice?
It's a hard situation, but you have to do what you have to do to save your life. Like, you have to. It doesn't mean like you have to stop talking to them forever. It doesn't mean like maybe talk to them from afar, talk to them over the phone, like just don't see them in person. If it's going to be hard for you to be around them, and if you feel like you're endangering yourself, then what's the point? Like, what good are you going to get out of it? I have friends like that I had to cut off in order for me to stay sober. Like, there's some people that I really wish I could hang out with, and I just can't do it, like, because I'm endangering what I've made of myself. I'm endangering the person that I've become, and I'm finally confident and happy with myself, and why would I want to go back to how I was before? So I think maybe talking to them from afar if you really want them in your life, but I would just cut off communication completely, in my opinion, until they really get the help that they need.
It sounds so awful to cut somebody off like that, especially after such a long time. And I mean, I definitely hadn't had friends that long. You know, I'm only 23.
Well, yeah.
But I mean, I did have really good friends when I got sober that I could not talk to anymore. And it has nothing to do with the kind of person that I know they are. It just has more to do with protecting myself and my own sobriety.
Yeah.
Because I just cannot put myself in those situations, or I get loaded, or I get high, and I reap the consequences.
Right.
You know, so it's poisonous to my own life, and I have to stay away from that. That's at least for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot of experience with friendships that are that long. I don't have experience being alive that long. But my sponsor's a bit older than me, and he has a few friends that are like that, and from what I've seen is kind of what you were talking about. Like, he maintains contact with him, you know, he'll talk to him on the phone every once in a while, whatever. And and this is coming from my discussions with him about that matter, as much as he wants to see them doing well, like it didn't help me, it didn't help him, it doesn't, in my experience, it doesn't help very many people when you try to just cram AA down somebody's throat. So his method is just, he maintains contact, you know, and he just tries to be that example of like, this is what I do, this is how my life is going. Like if you're and he, you know, like we were talking about, he meets that guy, he meets his friends where they're at. If they're still getting high and that's their thing, cool, like I wish the best for you. And then, you know, I'll get a call from you in 6 months when things go wrong again.
Right.
And, you know, and that's the tradition of most fellowships is attraction rather than promotion, and that's exactly what they're talking about. Like just be an example, and you know, people who are hurting will come our way. We don't have to go out and like shout at these people about what they can do to save their lives.
Right. Seeing somebody's life get better while yours is getting worse is pretty attractive, right? Especially if you see that it's working.
Yeah.
So.
Cool.
All right, the next question that we have is, what is your higher power?
Oh.
What is it?
Yeah. What you, like, why'd you go, oh?
It's a really hard question to answer.
It is. I know for me, mine doesn't have a face. It doesn't, it's just something that I want myself to be. It's confident, it's funny, it believes in me because I want to believe in myself. It helps me through my hard times and so much more. It doesn't necessarily have to have a name. It doesn't have to have a face. It doesn't have to be someone. It doesn't have to be something. But I just know that it's something greater than me. And it's something more powerful that took me out of the depths of addiction when I was dying. It like brought me to where I am today, and I couldn't be any more grateful. And maybe one day I will find out what it is. But as like for this moment, like I'm not sure, and I'm totally okay with it because it helps me, and that's all I need.
I'm gonna say that my higher power is not God, but it's God.
Yeah.
if that makes any sense. And the reason I say that is because you say God and people just like think of religions and everything that they personally tie it to, and that's not what it is for me. I call it God because there's not really like a more awesome word than God. Like when you think of God, you know. But it's something that I've grown a connection with, regardless of what it is, and I'm not exactly sure, to be perfectly honest. I know that it's more powerful than me, and that doing whatever it is, praying, meditating, service, all these things to get a connection to it, right, has kept me sober.
Right.
And nothing else has done that. Absolutely nothing else. And I've tried a lot of other things. So whatever it is, it's the thing that keeps me sober.
It's the shit.
Basically.
Yeah. I usually, like, I'll say the word God as opposed to higher power just because it's a shorter word.
Yeah.
You know? And I remember someone telling me once, like, the reason we have to use God or higher power, like, you guys and me, like, all three of us know what a rose is. We know what a rose smells like. But without actually saying the word rose, we could dance around that subject forever without arriving at the same point.
Right.
So we have to have a word for it. And I've come to learn that God or a higher power, it's not a concept of my understanding, it's the subject of my experience.
Right.
You know, like we were talking about, when I do good things to try and help other people, like good things happen, you know, like the world I tend to kind of work in harmony with the world, and it's almost like despite my efforts, despite my actions, I usually end up where I'm supposed to be. You know, I've learned what I needed to learn, and I'm in a position to help someone else. The only difference is, like, the more I try and fight that, like, the more pain I have to go through before I end up at that point.
True.
And I forgot what I was going to say.
Embarrassing.
I know, right?
No, you did good. I know for me, in the beginning, I had a hard time with the word God, but someone just, if anyone out there has a problem with it, like just think of it as good, orderly direction. Like that's what I was taught. G for good, O, orderly, D, direction, just so everyone knows. Don't make fun of me. So yeah, that's all I really have to say. But mine, I already said what mine was, but good job, guys.
All right, so we have one more question before we'll wrap up here. It's from one of our Facebook users, Mercedes. She says, I have a question. What has meditation done for you in your day-to-day life? It's something I've been struggling with, keeping up with it daily, and really need some more motivation to get it into my daily routine. So do any of you meditate, and how does it help you?
I meditate. You actually have experience in meditating for a commitment you have. What do you have to say about that?
I lead a meditation meeting every Saturday, once a week, and the commitment does more for me than the meditation does. I mean, honestly, meditating once a week isn't like it doesn't like change my life or anything. It's good to definitely relax and you know, at least try to get some connection, but meditating on a daily basis is a little bit different, I think, and I have done that, and I have seen positive changes in my life, especially with how crowded my headspace is.
Right.
Right, because constantly I walk around with like a million things going on in my mind at the same time, like right now even, and it just helps to kind of clear those things out, right? And it helps me to focus a little better and not be so agitated all the time.
Right.
So it's just, it's training your mind, I guess. It's a practice, and you can't really do it wrong, but it's so important, at least to my recovery.
Yeah, I used to do it on like a daily basis. Now it's almost daily, probably like 4 or 5 out of 7 days of the week.
At least regular.
Yeah. And the days I do it, I don't notice a whole lot of difference that day. You know, usually if I start off my day like that, I'll probably be a little bit more calm, a little bit more pulled together, but really it's practice for when I'm out in the world. It's a lot like going to the gym and picking up something heavy and setting it down over and over again. It doesn't really make sense in the moment.
It's a discipline.
But then later, when there's a heavy couch that has to go upstairs, like, oh wait, you've been in the gym the whole time, you got this. And the reason I say that is, like we were just talking about, anger and consequences and stuff. I have that practice of just kind of slowing down and clearing my mind. So I'm used to that. Like if I get angry at something, I can stop more quickly. Like, wait a minute, I am angry. Why am I angry? Well, because this guy's doing this. Like, well,
Pause when agitated.
exactly. All of that becomes easier, and I'm not fighting the world anymore or as much, and life gets a lot easier when I'm not at war with it all the time.
Just more aware of yourself.
Yeah.
True.
More aware of myself, the consequences of my actions, and maybe like slowing down before I do some of the immediate thoughts that I have.
Meditation for me, it allows me to like be fear-free in that moment, and it like really brings me back to like myself. And I usually do it at the end of the night when I'm going through my inventory of how I was during that day, and it just brings me back to when I was little, like when I had like no cares in the world and I was just free and my mind could just like be at ease. And it's kind of like a good feeling because it just brings like such a good happy, like it makes my heart happy, and it allows me to think in an orderly manner, and it calms me down. And sometimes I do it, like let's say my mom and I get into a fight, like I'll just sit there, and instead of freaking out on her, like exactly what you were saying, like I have a tool to use, like just kind of center myself and be like, okay, like why is it that I'm angry? Like is it about me or is it really about her? Or I'm angry because this is the way I'm reacting to the situation. And yeah, meditation's beautiful. I really enjoy it, and it helps me with a lot of things like in my life, and I just love the fact that it just takes all those fears away for that moment.
Cool.
Right
Sweetness. I just
All
said that.
right. So I want to thank our guests again for joining us today, and thank everyone for tuning in. We do this live stream every Monday, Pacific Standard Time or Mountain Time until daylight savings kicks in, 12 o'clock. If you have any questions about recovery or finding treatment, please send us a message on our Facebook, and we will direct you to the best of our ability. We have more resources and information available at www.detoxtorehab.com. So we will be back next Monday. Have a great week.
Yes.